when I was invited to be on this panel, I have to admit that I'd heard the term creative economy, but it wasn't something that I really knew what it was. Aaron actually suggested a book to me called A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink. And it's a fascinating and really provocative read, especially when it's talking about how the brain works, the left side versus the right side, you know, what is linear thinking and what is creative. But I left feeling that some of his assumptions and conclusions are suspect, and I thought they might be fun to consider on this panel. According to Pink, we've entered into a fourth stage of employment for U.S. workers. He writes that we've progressed from a society of farmers to a society of factory workers to a society of knowledge workers. And we've actually, in his mind, exited the information age already. And we're progressing to a society of creators and empathizers, of pattern recognizers, and meaning makers. So in some ways, his viewpoint, I think, makes sense. And it's certainly exciting when you think about unlocking all of this creativity. But I think it only works if you assume that the stability of all of our systems and that life as we know it is more or less going to continue as it has in a linear way, perhaps ironically. I think that is a rather dubious assumption, and assuming that the status quo will go on and quite likely a dangerous one. So for Pink, there are 3 A's that are the enemy of the U.S. worker and entrepreneur in the future economy to consider. There's Asia, abundance, and automation. So can someone overseas do it cheaper? Can a computer do it faster? Is what I'm offering in demand in an age of abundance? Manufacturing in the U.S. isn't even mentioned. It's been ceded entirely to Asia, where our knowledge jobs seem to be headed as well. This is the global economy. But what makes the global economy possible is oil, and oil is a finite resource. One day we'll run out of it. We don't know when, and it's not anytime soon, but it's certainly going to become scarce, and when it does, it's going to become more expensive. So in my mind, imagining that products will always be cheaper to produce 6,000 miles from where we live and that they will be forever plentiful is a profound leap of faith. And I think there's also an intrinsic, what's the word, ethno basis. I'll think of the word when the speech is over. But it assumes that the people in Asia who have conquered manufacturing and knowledge work aren't going to be able to graduate into this conceptual age that Pink imagines. But of course, they have poets in India too. So it seems like a slippery place to position our workforce. That said, even if all of Pink's assumptions were true, the idea that we as a society could cultivate a more creative culture seems akin to telling everyone that they should become bodybuilders. We might benefit in a singular regard, but at what expense? I think a well-rounded economy and society should have farmers and manufacturers, as well as accountants and inventors. And every local economy and civilization needs writers, musicians, actors, and painters, people practicing the creative arts. So one of the key insights this book offers is the importance of design. And at the risk of sounding overly simplistic, many of our societal ills could be fixed by good design. But instead of focusing our efforts on sleeker toasters or more intuitive interfaces, no disrespect to the late Steve Jobs, design could be used to address the systems that inform our daily lives. I'd like to talk about 3 people in Philadelphia who, though they aren't artists, are incredibly creative, and I truly believe that they are the leaders of our future economy. The first one is Ned Foley, former lawyer who lives in Royersford in Chester County. He began composting on a farm just as a hobby. Actually, he was helping out an elderly neighbor of his, and he became obsessed with the process. He now runs 2 particular acres, which accepts between 400 and 500 tons of organic waste annually. Foley has plans to roll out a system where we could have small-scale composting facilities throughout the state. It's quite possible that he's the most important voice for composting in our region or any other. While he's diverting food from the landfill, which is bad for the environment, and creating compost, which is gold for gardeners, he's going to create jobs. Second person I'd like to highlight is Avi Golan, who with his partner John Wybar is reinventing the construction waste recycling industry with their company Revolution Recovery. Says Golan, anytime you mix wood, drywall, and cardboard in a dumpster, people look at it and see waste, where we see commodities just mixed together. Since building waste accounts for 2/3 of non-industrial waste, there is great potential here. Revolution Recovery is able to save over 80% of what's brought to them. So basically, you can tell anybody who's looking into a garbage can, I think, has our economy's best interest at heart. One other person I wanted to mention is an educator named Simon Hauger, and he has just started the Sustainable Workshop in the Navy Yard. It's a pilot project of project-based education that he hopes will turn into a full-fledged school. Hoger started an after-school program at West Philly High for kids who are not on a college track to make an electric car, specifically one that could get 100 miles per gallon. They began to enter their vehicles into contests, beating cars from elite teams, schools like MIT, and respected companies like Tesla. And I should reiterate that these are high school students. It's astonishing what he's done. So part of what we try to do with GRID is to foster a local community and a local economy. We are also trying to gently but urgently express what we perceive to be the real challenges our society faces. Having adequate supplies of healthy food, clean water, and energy. It's our hope that the creative economy will unleash its energy and innovation on these pressing needs. Thank you.